So, Mother Jackie, won't you stand? Bishop Cousins, bishops of the church, preachers of the gospel, Mr. Farrakhan, Reverend Sharpton, elected officials who are present late this afternoon. Thank you for your caring and for your patience. On behalf of the family, I say thank you today. I said to the bishop earlier, sometimes I believe in short weddings and long funerals. Some people's lives are worthy of taking the time to say goodbye to. Since all of us can't talk but really want to say something or sing something, and we've been sitting for a long time, we ought to express in our own way our love and appreciation for what Rosa Parks meant to us. And so, on your feet and put your hands together and show your love for Sister Rosa Parks. Show your love. Show your love for our sitting in, for our standing up, for our courage, for our character, for representing us so well, for making us feel so good, for making us better, for helping to set us free. Put your hands together. Let the heavens declare the glory of God. Put your hands together. The Rosa Parks for Dr. King. Put your hands together. Like you really mean it one more time. Put your hands together and declare the glory of God. Let me hear you scream. To Sister Aretha, who means so much to us. A hand for Aretha Franklin. Put your hands together for Sister Aretha. And for the choir. Stand up, choir. Give it up for the choir. The Mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick. Mr. Mayor, thank you. Put your hands together for the Mayor. And the Mayor of Los Angeles, Tony Viragosa from Los Angeles. Put your hands together. I just want to, in these few moments, advise you to read the scripture when you go home tonight, the book of Esther, chapter 4, verses 12 through 16, of where they're reading as we seek to interpret Sister Rosa and not have interpretations thrust upon us. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the other Jews or the rest of us. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou in thy father's house shalt be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom, but for such a time as this, Rosa? Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night nor day. I and also my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. In 1955, a few days after Mrs. Parks had sat in, there was a mass meeting in Montgomery. Dr. King said, we are here this morning for serious business. On so many occasions, Negroes have been intimidated and humiliated and oppressed because of the sheer fact that they were Negroes. He said just the other day, just last Thursday to be exact, one of the finest citizens in Montgomery, not one of the finest Negro citizens, but one of the finest citizens in Montgomery, was taken from a bus and carried to jail and arrested because she refused to give up her seat to a white person. He then said, when the history books are written in the future, somebody will say there lived a race of people, a black people, a people who had the moral courage to stand up for their rights. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., December 1955. The 2005 Freedom-Bound train is full of giants. Johnson Publishing, who illuminated our way. Vivian Malone Jones, who opened up closed doors at the University of Alabama. C. Dolores Tucker, first African-American Secretary of State of Pennsylvania, a pace setter. Judge Constance Baker Motley, who allied with Thurgood Marshall to end and break the backbone of legal segregation. And now, Rosa Parks, our morning star, the star that led us by night. When it's real dark, a little light will do you. If all of the lights in this room were out and it were pitch dark, one light would challenge all the darkness and give us hope and direction. For such an awesome force in history, we wrestle countless ways all day long today. How do we express ourselves? How do we give thanks to her meaning and to her impact? The question was once raised to Micah, how do you worship? Or do you give the Lord some fatted calves and rams and rivers of oil, meaningless sacrifices? The answer was, oh man, you know what is good. You know what really matters to God. Not your trinkets, your gold watches, your diamond rings, your furs, your exquisite looking fun and little cars. What really matters to God? Not the playpen called your house, your toy. What really matters to God? Not your neighbor, your friends, your social crowd, but rather that you just cut it out and do justice. We don't know what house she lived in, what kind of sheets was on the bed, what kind of silverware in the china closet, because none of that really matters.
That's right, Reverend.
Dr. King, Dr. Mays, Dr. Howard Thurman didn't wear jewelry. No slick, quick preachers. No prosperity gospel. No fleeting, faith-based preaching, but rather love-based. Beyond faith and hope is a more obligating, love-based preaching.
Come on, Reverend.
You can have faith by yourself, you can't love by yourself. And so, Rosa Parks, Martin King, you do justice and love mercy and walk humbly before God. Perhaps to Sister Parks, what we ought to do, and Congressman Jackson has a bill. We put in the Great Hall of Congress a life-size statue of Rosa Parks. If John Calhoun can be there, and General Robert E. Lee, and Jefferson Davis, men who engaged in sedition, secession, slavery, segregation, and treason. Just maybe we need a guardian angel to watch over them in the halls of Congress. Perhaps George Bush, who wants to give a ceremony, can sign the Voting Rights Act and extend it with enforcement powers. President Bush, on yesterday, gave homage to Rosa Parks and then put forth to the nation an extreme right-wing judge, antithetical to everything Rosa Parks ever stood for. He put forth an anti-Rosa Parks judge. Not unlike last year, he put a wreath on Dr. King's graveyard. And the next day, allowed the Supreme Court to kill affirmative action. However, he sticks out his hands as always something up his sleeves. Perhaps a White House conference on civil rights. Why not 50 years later? Watching bodies float down the rivers of New Orleans. No plan for rescue. No plan for relocation. No plan for reconstruction that's fair. 50 million Americans, no health insurance. The surplus culture for the few and the deficit culture for the masses. Just maybe we need a White House conference on civil rights. Mr. Mayor, why not right now? On the river in Detroit, the Rosa Parks Park, where we can entomb her body and have for generations unborn this woman whose sacrifice made America better. Why not now some action turn our mourning into some living memorial? I've been asked many times, Mr. Minister, what made Rosa Parks different, and I'll let you go. What made the difference was she was available. That was some PhDs in Montgomery. That was some lawyers in Montgomery. That was some teachers in Montgomery. That was some doctors in Montgomery. That was some muscle-bound men in Montgomery. There were some sorority sisters in Montgomery. There were some cute little women in Montgomery, but none of them were available. God is not bound by your credentials and cannot be in any way, cannot be in fact trapped by your trappings. God uses the available. It may be some teenage boy only with a slingshot and a rock against the odds fighting some giant. David was available. It may be some baby, some Moses under death warrant floating down the river, protected by a prayer warrior mother who comes unto himself and says one day, Pharaoh, let my people go. Didn't say, Pharaoh, give me a grant. Or let me ride on your chariot, in your airplane. He said, Pharaoh, let my people go. It may be some Esther, some orphan girl without mother or father. A beauty queen for reasons she didn't quite understand, who slept with the king and became a part of the king's harem and thought she was there because she was cute. Many of us think we're there because we're cute, or got a degree of kind of smart, kind of slick, score higher on tests. You are not there in that governor's office to profile. You are not there in the White House to represent you. How did Condoleezza get there? The blood of 4 babies in Birmingham freed the Condoleezza, not concerto piano, but the sacrifice of the innocent babies. How did Colin Powell get there? Our T.D. Jakes, the Farrakhan, on the backs of the innocent, suffering sacrificial. So because we can speak, maybe this is the day, maybe we were born for just a time as this, to speak out now. And you might lose your job or your situation, but if I perish, God uses the available. Rosa Parks was in a rocking chair. I don't want us to leave here with the notion that somehow Rosa Parks started the freedom movement, because y'all, that ain't true. It just ain't true. From the time them slave ships landed in 1619, we never stopped kicking. Some resisting slaves, some runaways, we ain't never stopped kicking. Some Dred Scott, 24 to 6 years in slavery. We finally got a 1865 abolition movement, a bill called emancipation, abolishing slavery. Then we got betrayed. They lied to us. We saved the Union, then they abandoned us for their Confederate allies. And yet we kept on fighting back. We kept on coming back. In 1896, they reverted back to de facto slavery with the 1896 Jim Crow bill. Jim Crow did not come from just all ordinary birds. It came from the supreme birds. The Supreme Court ruled Jim Crow. For 50 years, we fought that set of 9 Jim Crow birds. 1954, Thurgood Marshall and Constance Baker Motley and Attorney Houston, they defeated Jim Crow legally, but it had no on-the-ground effect. I remember sitting Bishop Cause on our yard front porch in Greenville, and someone said, you know, the Civil Rights Bill got passed yesterday. I said, what happened? So we got integration. I said, what integration mean? The people didn't understand what that meant. So, well, what it means is that it's like you put salt and pepper together and you shake them up, and it'd be like integrated, it'd be black and white. Somebody said, when that gonna happen? They said, well, no time soon, but that's what it means. Because the law passed, but we still had to go to the back of the bus. We still had to go to double shift schools. We still couldn't use the water fountains or the toilets in the public parks. So the law passed up top, but it had no on the ground immediate impact. But it did change the law. We live in our faith, we live under the law. August 28, 1955, 8 years to the day of the March on Washington, 1963, August 28th, Emmett Till was killed. Everybody knew what that meant. Emmett Till's mother, in the best tradition of black women freedom fighters, as a protest, she brought her watermark bodies baby back to Chicago. Baby's head 8 times bigger than it was naturally. 100,000 people saw that baby's body in an open casket. It was a protest led by a black woman in the lineage of Rosa Parks. 100,000 saw it. I once asked Mrs. Parks, since I got to know her, why didn't you go to the back of the bus? 3 other women went back. Why didn't you go back? The sign above the driver's head, red colored from the rear, whites from the front. If you violate, you can be punished by law. Why did you go back? I mean, you knew that you were going to face jailing, or firing, or death. Why didn't you go back? She said, I thought about Emmett Till and I couldn't go back. So somewhere between the law changing, she sat down to test the law. She was a freedom fighter. Said, a seamstress, that's irrelevant. She didn't get locked up for sewing. She could have been a housemaid, except this was 1955. She joined the NAACP in 1943, 12 years before that. She wasn't lucky. She was defiant. They caricature and say there's a southern black woman down in Alabama, and one day she been working hard all day long, and she was so tired, and her feet was hurting, and her knees had the rheumatism, and she didn't get up no more. She said, that ain't true. So I was an educated woman. I had a family. I had the voting card in my pocket. My feet wasn't hurting. I was violated. I was insulted. Rosa Parks, her predominant characteristic was not of seamstress, but freedom fighter. Go ahead, Reverend. You neutralize her strength and you make her seamstress. She was freedom fighter. Quiet courage, but non-negotiable dignity. She was a militant. You got a jail cell, you got a gun, I got dignity, and so bring it on. And look, Aretha, what God has done to her. Today, we exalt Rosa Parks. Unarmed dignity. But the white man who stood there, he is now shamed. His grandchildren will not let their names go public. The bus driver is now in shame. The police, the arresting officer, his grandchildren denied their granddaddy. The last became first. She's high, they're low. They had guns. She had a breastplate of righteousness. And that was enough. Go ahead, Reverend. What's amazing, Brother Al, is that last year Auburn was #1 football team in the nation. And this year, Alabama is undefeated. And that's because they got the best talent the state has to offer. But without Rosa Park, and they could only have white ball players, then Bob Bryant had to meet USC in the Orange Bowl and get embarrassed by Sam Cunningham. They went back next year and got embarrassed by Johnny Rogers from Nebraska. In many ways, Rosa Parks, she freed the man that stood over her. She freed the bus driver. The bus driver can now have some dignity. His children can now hold their heads up. You couldn't have had Jimmy Carter out of Georgia, or Bill Clinton out of Arkansas, or George Bush out of Texas, because no Southerner could win because they were trapped by stigma. She freed them too. When George Bush talks about democracy in Afghanistan or Iraq, he's not talking about Thomas Jefferson democracy. He's not talking about no white male aristocrat democracy. It has no export. He's talking about Rosa Parks' King democracy. Thomas Jefferson democracy has no export value in the world market. Who wants an all-white male aristocratic democracy where women can't vote and only landowners can vote? They have no market value. Today we come to honor one who is available. Many of us are not available for service. We come to honor a freedom fighter who happened to sew. She was qualified to be a teacher. Teaching and seamstering was not her. She was a freedom fighter. At that time, Al, any school teacher in the South belonged NAACP, people lose their jobs. She meant to fight that system. You got to put, as I close, Thurgood Marshall, Emmett Till, Rosa Parks, and Dr. King in the same bracket. There's a woman here today named Miss Claudette Colvin. Is she still here? Claudette Colvin, she sat down 2 years before Rosa Parks sat down. She sat down, but there was no movement on the ground. She sat down, there had not been a Thurgood Marshall victory. There had not been a Martin King, and so without a movement, she sat down, but nothing happened for Miss Colvin. She was not the first to sit down. She sat down in a rocking chair. There was Thurgood Marshall and Martin King. She sat down in a rocking chair. This was a test. She won a legal test. She won a legal test a year later. And then Daisy Bates in 57. Little Rock 9. And then the sit-ins in 1960. And then Medgar in 63. And then the March in Washington. And then Birmingham. And the March in Selma. It took us 10 years from back of the bus to right the vote. Are we gathering here today? Is this a sentimental ceremony or is this a freedom rally? Her legacy is secure. Her work unfinished. I came into Detroit last night. 75,000 Negroes walking in the cold to see her body. If they don't vote on Tuesday, they wasted her time. You mean in the chart, you elected England as governor by not voting? You mean in the chart, Motown, hip hip Detroit? You mean you voted 20% of your 20% voted a month ago? You mean you're going to have a national performance watching a dead sister and then don't vote? I don't believe in voting. You believe in Medicare. You believe in Medicaid. You believe in public education. You believe in Pell Grants, so you must believe in voting. If in Detroit there's a 50% turnout on Tuesday as opposed to 20%, I know y'all got the message. All right. Brothers and sisters, Sister Rosa, you are our eagle bird of hope. You are a gift sent from up above. Like the eagle, you are a bird of strength and power and resolve. You looked at the sun at noonday and you didn't flinch. You looked at the little ones whose wings were less strong and not as long, and you inspired us out of our fears. You allowed the rebirth of hope. You stirred your nest. You gave us comfort and protection. Yes. You showed us how to fly. Yes. Fly fearlessly, no matter the weather. When we fail in our efforts, God allowed us to be with you long enough for you to lift us up again, because we fall down sometimes. Sometimes our wings didn't work for us, and yet we got up again, because nothing is too hard for God. The writer promised, some glad morning I will fly away. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles, and they shall run and not be weary, walk and not faint. The writer promised, you may cry for a long time, you weep, but weeping may endure for a night. Hold on, hold out, sit down, stand up, fight back, dry your tears, because joy come in the morning. Now, Mother Eagle, you're going back to stir the big nest in the sky. And so goodbye, Sister Rosa. You're going up a little higher now. But when you get there, don't just sit down. Stand up now, Rosa. I want you to stop by and tell Dr. King howdy. I know you're going to get there because you have a prepaid ticket. Pull that bullet out of his back. Stop by and say to Serena Goodman Cheney, well done, young brothers. Stop by and tell Emmett Till, your dying inspired me and I made America better. Stop by and say, Dr. King, we're still marching up the King's Highway. It's dark, but the morning comes. The Lord is our light and our salvation. Whom shall we fear? They're still threatening us. They're still killing us and locking us up. But yea, though I walk through the valleys and shadows of death, I fear no evil. No. For thou art with me, and thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Can I get a witness? Tell me, hail ya. We're going to move on up. We're going to move on up. Just a little higher. Tell them some glad morning. Some glad morning. Some glad morning. When this life is over, I'll fly away. I'll fly away. I'll screw the silver sockets of glory. One glad morning. You can sit down there where you want to sit down. Sit down anywhere in heaven. There'll be no handcuffs up there. There'll be no mean police up there. You get tired of sitting down, just walk. Just walk around heaven all day. It won't be long now. Rise. Rise. Higher. 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 morning time. It's morning time. I'll fly
Lord Jesus,
away.
oh Lord, I fly away. Lord, I fly away. Oh, glory. Lord, oh, help me now, fly away to land on
We will never grow.
God's celestial shore. Lord Jesus, fly away. Oh, glory. Oh, glory. Come on and sing it with me. Fly away. Oh, glory. Lord, she flew away. Oh, when, Lord, when I die, hallelujah, oh, hallelujah, by and by. Fly. There was Moses, and then there was Rosa. She flew away.
Come on, somebody put your hands together for the Lord. Please stand and receive the senior bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, presiding prelate of the 4th Episcopal District, the Right Reverend Philip Robert Cousin. Come on and give God a praise.
Amen. Amen. Let me take this opportunity to thank Bishop Ellis and Lady Ellis and the family of Greater Grace in the city of David. Thank them for their hospitality and for their graciousness in allowing us the privilege of assembling and sharing this wonderful homegoing celebration for one who is deserving of all the accolades. To all of the reverend clergy, to those who come, especially Minister Farrakhan, Dr. Jackson, my mayor, Kilpatrick, to all of the public officials who were here and have gone, and to all